Hello, everybody. Good to be back and good to have you back. I sincerely hope that all of you are well, healthy, and ready for what is to come next. Okay, today we are going to have a basic chat about mental health, the effects and origins on the sufferer, and the effects on loved ones, and ultimately the dangers for the community at large if issues go unchecked and if bad behavior goes unpunished. I am not a mental health professional, and what I will talk about is based on personal experience and a lot of reading on a variety of mental health issues. My own experience came from suffering from fairly severe depression for most of my life and having lived with someone with schizophrenia. My own depression went largely unchecked, undiagnosed, and untreated for many years, even after 2 suicide attempts, which was rejected as attention seeking. I even had a family member tell me that there's no such thing as depression, only stress. As I do not wish to make any of my videos about me, I'm not going to go into every nook and cranny of my experience, other than to tell you that in my mid-30s, a minister at the church I was attending at the time arranged for me to see a chaplain who was also a psychiatrist for the military and the police. It was the best thing I have ever done for myself and everybody around me. That is not to say that I never suffered from bouts of depression again, but I certainly managed it better afterwards, with only one bout of deep depression in my mid-40s, which I now recognize as more circumstantial than anything else. As mentioned, I was also engaged to and lived with a man who suffered from schizophrenia for a few years, and although it is a sensitive and deeply personal issue, I today, after basically 8 years, recognize it as a life lesson. I'm actually grateful that I had learned what most people who have not had the experiences think is that one can recognize someone who suffers from such a serious mental illness from a distance. No, you cannot. Others may think that people suffering such illnesses are just crazy. No, they are not. Another assumption is that they are dumb. No, they are not. On the contrary, they are often highly intelligent. My fiance was one of those people who presented as a little eccentric, but otherwise someone with high moral standards, well educated, well read, very capable, very able, very independent, and just generally a nice person. And for most of the time, he was exactly that. He was the kind of person who would bring me lunch at work or have dinner ready when I came home from work. He read extensively and had a brilliant memory and recall of what he read, and that led to hours of very interesting conversation. But his medication made him lethargic for hours each day, affected his metabolism so that he would not eat much, just drink endless cups of coffee, etc. And every couple of months, he would decide to stop his medication. Slowly, over days, he would become more and more paranoid until he finally had a full-blown episode, which could last a day or days, or perhaps even a week, and even more. Episodes which often ended in tears and apologies and ultimately severe fatigue, often for the both of us, regardless of countless warnings and advice from his family and even his doctor. I thought that love could conquer all and that I could deal with it, That was until I got home one day and he was waiting for me, accused me of having a group of people working for me who was out to harm him and caused his daughter to have an accident that day. Apparently, his ex-wife called that day to say that his daughter had fallen off her horse during a riding lesson. I had never accompanied him when he fetched his daughter, thus did not even know where they lived, other than that it was somewhere in Cape Town. That day, he had also taped all the door handles and window latches with rolls and rolls of tape. Even confronted with logic and truth, he could not, or he would not, back down. And as I made my way upstairs, he grabbed me and attempted to throw me down a flight of stairs. I then knew and realized how dangerous my situation was and that I had to get out. So, with this as a little background, downplayed a little to protect the mental health of my listeners, let us talk about Harry and Meghan. I think it has pretty much been established that Meghan is a narcissist with sociopathic tendencies. We are also now aware that it is not just me saying so, but that most of us had listened to psychologists, body language experts, and other narcissists confirming it. Recently, even her sister Samantha said that Meghan is a psychopath. Others have alleged that she also suffers from an antisocial personality disorder. I cannot say for sure exactly what disorders she suffers from. I'm not qualified to do so. But I also think that there is more than enough evidence and input from a variety of people to conclude that she is the worst kind or a more serious level of narcissist, which would most likely make her a malignant or pathological narcissist. A narcissist, like a schizophrenic, like a psychopath, cannot be cured, and often therapy has the reverse effect and only results in such people becoming even more manipulative, having learned a few tricks through therapy of ways to be even more devious and hiding their true self even better. Only in a very few cases where the person recognizes their own disorder, and only if they are truly motivated, can a narcissist benefit from the therapy or and learn to cope with their poor self-esteem and to have more realistic expectations of others. But this will also depend on the person and whether or not they have other mental or personality disorders or not. During this whole Harry and Meghan saga, we saw ex-colleagues and friends speaking out and telling the world what a nice person Meghan is. And this is actually quite normal, and these people are not necessarily lying. Remember, a narcissist is all about self-indulgence and self-interest. And as long as they can benefit from a perceived friendship, they will spoil and pretend to love you as much, if not more, than anyone else ever have. And this is called love bombing. But, and this is a loaded and very heavy but, narcissists are not motivated to really know or understand others. They lose interest in people rather quickly, or when they've won their game. Even when they marry, they will not support their spouse's needs and wants for much longer than the honeymoon period, and definitely not if the spouse's needs comes at an inconvenience to them. More and more people are now speaking out about Meghan's actions and behavior, And there are stories about her treatment of seamstresses at Givenchy during the making of her wedding dress. There is a story of her throwing a rock at a therapist at a spa, her treatment of Catherine and Charlotte, and I have received email from a number of people who have observed self-indulgent and nasty actions from her in other places. And I will make a separate video on that in a day or two. But one report in particular stood out to me, and that was of someone who observed how she treated Harry in an organics food store, where it is said that she was obviously irritated and annoyed, and although the person could not hear the entire exchange, she did catch a word here and there. And one of the things she heard Meghan say was her telling Harry that not even his father wants him. And a little later, she said something like that Harry should have been a girl or could be a girl. It was an unpleasant exchange, whatever it was and whatever it was about. Meghan's face distorted when she snarled at Harry, and he looked dejected and did not say much. They paid for their goods. Someone who looked like one of their security guards, a dark-haired man, held the door for them, and they left. Now, this could have been insignificant. I know that I had words with my late husband in a store at least once. These things happen, but combined with the numerous other tales and stories from staff, both theirs and others, I think I can safely conclude that Meghan has few barriers or breaks when it comes to her treatment of others, and that this includes Harry. Narcissists have an inflated sense of their own importance and an unwarranted expectation of special treatment, and are prone to flying into a rage when he or she does not get treated according to their expectations. They also have a sense of entitlement, which is hard for us to understand. They have a tendency to exaggerate, is arrogant and boastful, and prone to belittling others. The point I'm trying to make is that narcissists can be dangerous. They bully, dominate, gaslight, and disrespect boundaries. They do not listen to or respect experts, be it a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, or a car mechanic. They will do a little research and then profess to know better than even those who have done years of study and with years of experience. This can pose a risk to the health and well-being of themselves and their family. They act without consulting others' opinions, including that of their spouses. For example, Harry may have known what the questions in the interview may be, and he may even have known more or less what Meghan would say. But I put it to you that he had no clue, word for word, exactly what she was going to say ultimately. And hence the discrepancy in their racism story or allegation. This trait can be dangerous. One example I read was about this father who, regardless of his wife and others telling him it was unwise to take his car out during a snowstorm, insisted his family get into the vehicle and accompany him for a visit to his mother. Luckily, in this story, no one was harmed, but they were stuck in the snow for hours. A narcissist will put other lives in danger if it meets their needs. Here we only need to think of Meghan Markle ordering the royal helicopter pilot to fetch her special snacks. They have low to no empathy. Being right, winning, and dominating are far more important to a narcissist than worrying about how someone will feel. Meghan did not even consider how anyone in the royal family would feel when she spilled to Oprah. Narcissists love drama. They thrive on drama. They play people off against one another, keep dangerous secrets, and is quite capable of creating dangerous situations in order to create drama. A malignant narcissist may also have a sadistic streak. And based on all the stories I have collected on Meghan, I would certainly say that she is or could be a malignant narcissist. As children, we may slap our brother or sister or throw stones, but we are usually punished for those actions and taught that it's not acceptable behavior. But when an adult like Meghan throws teacups, slaps someone, bites, spits, hisses, throws rocks, etc., this may be a sure sign of a sadistic person. A narcissistic rage can very well lead to violence. The problem with a narcissist is that those rages can happen frequently, as a narc is obsessed with being seen as perfect. And if this perceived perfection is not reached, it leads to anxiety and anger. Many narcissists are very good in bed, as sex is used as a tool to impress, entrap, and manipulate. A narcissist is quite capable of being or appearing to be charming and romantic. At the end of the day, some psychiatrists see little difference between a narcissist and a psychopath. So let us take a breather and look at Harry for a moment and try to understand his behavior. He himself is a spoiled, entitled, and immature man. Other than what anyone may think, this makes him the perfect target for a narcissist, as the narcissist will have the perfect opportunity to play on those traits. One of the prime attributes of a narcissist is that they will break down their partner's self-esteem, and we have seen this happen to Harry in front of our very own eyes. The happy-go-lucky naughty boy is gone, and now we are faced with a sullen, bitter man who seemed to act even more immature than before. So we may disregard Harry as being weak for not standing up to his wife or leaving, but there is more going on with him internally than any of us will realize. In dealing with a narcissist, one has to set some strong and definite boundaries, something Harry himself does not have due to his own entitled and immature personality, which resulted from his own upbringing. Challenging a narcissist will result in retaliation, and Harry is most likely shying away from this at this point. Harry may have made a few connections since he moved to the United States, but he is no longer surrounded by the people who can and would be the most supportive, namely his family. A narcissist who is willing to learn and change could benefit from psychotherapy in the sense that it can teach them to behave more within the accepted norm. But firstly, it will take years of therapy, and secondly, it will not change or cure them, only teach them to be more acceptable or to have more acceptable behavior or as I would like to call it, to operate under the covers. Like my friend with schizophrenia, those who have a narcissist in their life need to be taught that one, you have to firstly accept that they are difficult to deal with and always will be. Once you have understood and accepted this, you need to put some distance between the two of you. And if you can't, then at the very least, set boundaries and stick to them, regardless how hard they may fight you. Do not even try to change a narcissist because you can't. Expect retaliation if you challenge them. Also be mindful that they may and will draw others into the situation, just like we've seen with Meghan. The way she now drew the Archbishop of Canterbury into her narrative, and the way she is using the royal family as part of her narrative. So, if you, like Harry, is stuck with a narcissist, you need to find non-confrontational ways to communicate with the narcissist. Never confront a narcissist in front of others. Get your own support system. Now, I'm going to post some references on the screen and in the description box below. So if you want to do a bit of self-study, you can just Google these persons or these dissertations and go read it for yourselves. Now let us talk a bit about Meghan's allegations that she was suicidal. I do not believe her, as all the photographic and other evidence does not verify her claim. But I was curious and very interested and went to read, and I was actually flabbergasted by what I read. I read that suicide or suicidal thoughts or threats of suicide is fairly common among narcissists, although it is believed that narcissists rarely commit suicide. It is common that a narcissist will threaten suicide as a means of manipulation, and it does not end. A 15-year study showed that people with narcissistic traits are more likely to die of suicide than those without. The reason for this is because of their fragile self-esteem, and a suicide attempt may be in response to a perceived narcissistic injury or embarrassment. To take note of is that suicidal behavior in narcissists can be 1. An attempt to increase self-esteem. Just think in terms of all the loving attention this person receives afterwards and how everyone then treads carefully around them. Secondly, an attempt to defend themselves. Think of, look what you've done to me. 3. A revengeful action. I'll make you pay. You'll feel guilty for the rest of your life. 4. A false assumption of their own indestructibility. Okay. 5. To get rid of an imperfect self. And this would apply to depression after a failed attempt at, say, fame or whatever. The victim of a narcissist is, however, in even greater danger of self-harm. As a matter of fact, the victim of a narcissist may suffer from narcissistic victim syndrome. Yes, folks, it has now even been given a name. Now, this includes anxiety, depression, persistent worry, nervousness, and even fear. Other symptoms that a victim of narcissistic abuse may present with are a variety of physical or emotional complaints without any physical disease visible, weight loss or weight gain, phobias. Just think about Harry's obsession with security and his and his family's safety. And then there are things like restlessness, etc. Victims of narcissistic victim syndrome may themselves have sudden outbursts of rage with accompanying violence. The victim always ends up an emotional wreck and is often the one left with the guilt and wondering what they did wrong. If a victim does not realize soon enough what is happening and seeks help for his or her depression and lack of self-worth, it could have disastrous effects. With all of this, it is clear that the royal family would be deluded if they think that they can successfully negotiate a truce with Meghan Markle and even Harry at this stage. There is no room for error in this relationship, and I'm talking about the one between the Harkles and the royal family. And a peace treaty of sorts will purely be a sign of weakness for Meghan. She will also see this as a confirmation of her own importance and power. As for Harry, there is nothing anyone can do until he himself recognizes his position and circumstances. Phew, okay, and that, my dear friends, is that. My next video will address some of the allegations and gossip contained in various platforms and in some of the email I received. So, for those of you more interested in the gossip, as most of us are, it is more entertaining, isn't it? It will be a doozy. Okay, so until then, take care. Bye.